It's the weekend, baby! Welcome into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, both coming to you from our homes, and we will be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports content. Pretty fired up to do it. It's Friday. It's the weekend once we get out of here, but we got some stuff to take care of before we do. Wade, happy Friday.
What's up, Mo? Good to be with you and good to see everybody on this, glorious Friday. And for once, we're not flirting with triple digits. Things are pretty good on this side of town right now. And it feels nice to kind of be back in the mix here on this Friday.
It's full bore this Friday as high school football got going last night. We got a full slate, as you will see when we get to the rundown here in a bit. We've got the final weekend of preseason football in the National Football League. We've got some college football tomorrow. Wade's fired up about Farmageddon. It's going to be a fun weekend, and we're going to bring you as much as we can about it again here over the next couple of hours. In the second hour, we will be joined by Jordan KAYE of the State out of Columbia, South Carolina, talking a little South Carolina football as we continue our Southeastern Conference football previews. In the next segment, we will be joined by the new Tennessee Titans radio play-by-play announcer, Taylor ZARZOUR. Again, the Titans will host the Minnesota Vikings tonight over at Nissan Stadium in their final preseason game. Looking forward to getting Taylor on our airwaves for the first time to kind of talk about getting settled in and what he's looking for out of this final matchup for the Titans before they cut down to their 53-man and get ready for NFL regular season action. We'll also be talking a little college basketball on the women's side, talk a little Major League Baseball, some Braves, some SEC football news that we need to get to that, as typically happens with us, came down right as David and I were going off the air yesterday. Little WNBA, little professional golf, Little League World Series down to their final four teams up in Williamsport. We'll talk a little bit about that. Nashville Soccer Club comes back home for the first time in what feels like forever, and I'm sure they're excited to do so because the road hasn't been so kind to them. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the show. Also, the NASCAR Cup Series wraps up its regular season this weekend in Daytona. And as we mentioned, college football gets going this weekend, which means it's time for our college football picks. We'll be picking, what are we looking at here, Wade? 5 of them? Yeah, 4. We got 4 games that we're going to take on to just get us in the mood for next weekend. So we'll be doing that in the final segment of the show as well. So again, plenty to get into, plenty to look forward to. Really excited about doing so. Wade?
Yeah, stretch the legs a little bit at the end of the show. Build the bankroll. Pad the bankroll just a little bit more, just in case you don't already have the funds already ready. You can add a little extra to the kitty by the end of the show, hopefully with some of our picks today.
There we go. One way or the other. One way or the other. Let's go ahead and get started on everything with yesterday's results and this weekend's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
To the rundown we go, boys and girls, and we mentioned we start with Thursday night results in the Mid-State, a big high school football matchup that we broadcast on Main Street Media Radio. It was Green Hill walloping Beach with 2 second-half touchdowns to make it a little closer. 38-21, though, a great win for the Hawks in their home opener last night across the Mid-State. Again, your football scoreboard there. Let's go to volleyball action. BGA picks up a 3-0 win versus Columbia Academy. It was Battle Creek with a 3-0 win versus Marshall County. Columbia defeating Shelbyville 3-0, your final there. Eagleville topping Moore County 3-0. A lot of straight set victories here, including Franklin over Gallatin. Middle Tennessee Christian with a 3-2. There's a 5-setter, defeating Franklin Road Academy last night. Perry County defeating Hampshire 3-2. It was Harpeth Hall 3, Rockvale nothing. It was Lebanon picking up a 3-0 victory versus Smyrna. Lewis County topping Mount Pleasant last night 3-0. Murfreesboro Central Magnet Community go to 5 sets. It was Murfreesboro Central defeating Community 3-2. Close game. Mo was on hand for a 3-2 thriller, it sounds like, with coverage at Main Street Murray as Culleoka defeats Santa Fe. Again, 3-2 was your final there. 3-1 picking up a victory was Page over Siegel. It was Spring Hill defeating Giles County 3-0 last night. Stewart's Creek with a 3-0 win versus Laverne, and Providence Christian topping Zion Christian last night in straight sets 3-0.
In girls soccer action from Thursday night, Battle Creek doubling up neighboring rival Spring Hill. 2-1 was the final there. Columbia Central with a 6-0 victory over visiting Columbia Academy. Skylar Montgomery with a hat trick for the Lady Lions in that one. Cookville 3, Lebanon 1 the final. Culleoka downs Lewis County 4-1. Giles County edging Franklin Christian 1-0. Fairview with a 5-2 win over Grace Christian of Franklin. It was Franklin Road Academy all over Providence Christian 10-1. St. Cecilia Academy 2, Friendship Christian 0. Clarksville Northeast and Overton played to a 1-1 draw. It was Stewart's Creek 9, Laverne nothing. Cannon County with an 8-0 win over Middle Tennessee Christian. Siegel 3, Nolansville nothing. Murfreesboro Central with a 5-2 win over Rockvale. It was Wilson Central over Smyrna 5-0. Smith County and Springfield played to a scoreless draw. Man. Warren County 5, Riverdale 3. Watertown defeats Ezel Harding 9-0. And it was Webb School of Bell Buckle 7, Zion Christian 3. In Major League Baseball last night, the Houston Astros pick up a 7-2 victory over the Baltimore Orioles. At First Horizon, Nashville outlasted the visiting Louisville Bats 8-7. In WNBA action, the Chicago Sky, with a big win over the New York Liberty, 91-85. Connecticut Sun, 67. The Washington Mystics, 56. The Atlanta Dream pick up a big win over the Minnesota Lynx, 75-73. And the Las Vegas Aces break them up, 83. Phoenix, 61.
Can't lose right now. Riding a 9-game win streak, taking names all over the place in the WNBA.
Sir.
Good run for them. High school football schedule for tonight. We begin. Games kicking off at 7 p.m. BGA will play host to Jackson Prep. That's Jackson out of Mississippi in that showdown tonight. Mount Pleasant will be at Battle Creek at 7 o'clock this evening. Smyrna on the road tonight at Brentwood. Lawson is traveling to Brentwood Academy. Cheatham County will visit Cascade tonight. Clarksville Northeast on the road at Christian County, Kentucky. It'll be Blackman traveling to Clarksville this evening. Hunters Lane will visit Clarksville Academy tonight. Fort Campbell, Kentucky, making a short trip down to take on Clarksville Northwest. It'll be Dixon County at Columbia tonight. Again, all of these are at 7 o'clock. Fayetteville will be at Columbia Academy. Siegel travels to Cookeville. Forest is on the road tonight at Creekwood. Tipton Rosemark visiting DCA. Nashville Christian will be on the road at Davidson Academy. Providence Christian visiting Eagleville tonight. Whitehaven will do the same, taking a trip to Innsworth. East Hickman on the road at Fairview. John Overton doing the same at Father Ryan. Whites Creek is on the road at Franklin Simpson, Kentucky. Trousdale County will visit Friendship Christian at 7 p.m. this evening. Also, other 7 o'clock games include Hendersonville at Gallatin. Page is traveling to Giles County tonight. Glencliff will be at Good Pasture. Franklin Christian will be at Grace Christian Franklin. Westmoreland traveling to Greenwood, Kentucky. Schedule also shows Station Camp traveling to Greenwood, Kentucky. Show up and see who Greenwood, Kentucky's playing tonight at 7 o'clock. Should be fun. And Hickman County is on the road tonight at Harpeth.
Greenwood's pretty good, but I don't know if they can play two teams or not. Also at 7 o'clock, Kenwood comes to Nashville taking on the Burros of Hillsboro. Stratford, meanwhile, going north, taking on Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Stewart County is at Houston County. Mount Juliet Christian travels to Joe Burns. Franklin is traveling to Laverne. Pope John Paul II making its debut under Rock Batten. Hopefully they're on the way. They are playing at Lakeway Christian over the other side of Knoxville tonight. That's a 7 o'clock start their time. It's going to be 6 here. Summertown is at Lawrence County at 7. Zion Christian goes to Lewis County. Liberty, I guess that's Liberty Tech out of Jackson, hosting Innovation Academy out of Robertson County. That's a 7 o'clock start. Liberty Creek hosting East Robertson. McCallie coming to Nashville, taking on the Lipscomb Mustangs. Also at 7, speaking of Mustangs, Cornersville goes to Loretto. Percona's at MBA. Ravenwood going south of the border, taking on Madison Ridgeway Academy of Mississippi at 7. McGavock is at Maplewood. We talked a little bit about this one yesterday with Chris Simpson on Coach's Corner. They'll be honoring 3 of their historic standouts at halftime of that one there. Ezel Harding goes to Middle Tennessee Christian at 7. Antioch is at Mount Juliet. Lebanon travels to Nolensville. Big matchup as Oakland takes on visiting Christ Presbyterian Academy at 7. White House goes to Portland. Knoxville Catholic is at Riverdale. Independence is at Rockvale. Couple of first-year coaches there. Scott Blade for 2.0 of the Eagles. James Counts Jr. with the Rockets of Rockvale. Springfield goes to Rossview. Franklin Road Academy is at South Gibson over in West Tennessee. Summit is at Spring Hill in the Battle of the Hill. Centennial travels to Stewart's Creek. Montgomery Central is at Sycamore. Watertown hosts Smith County. Richland goes to Wayne County. Kirkwood is at West Creek. Greenbrier goes to White House Heritage. And Cane Ridge, finally, at 7 o'clock, is at Wilson Central tonight.
Other games on your slate this evening at the high school ranks. We got volleyball action that begins at 5 p.m. West Point, Alabama will meet Blackman. At 7 p.m., you can catch Halls from West Tennessee taking on Siegel. Also at 8 o'clock tonight, smells like a classic to me here. You got Montgomery Catholic out of Alabama taking on Blackman. So Blackman with games at 5 and 8 this evening. Soccer action at 3 p.m. Here in just a little bit, it'll be Dixon County meeting Livingston Academy. At 6 o'clock tonight, Siegel will be at Bullitt East. That's out of Kentucky. Once again, a 6 p.m. kickoff there. And at 6:40 tonight, it'll be Good Pasture taking on Stone Memorial. Major League Baseball schedule for this evening. The Astros and Orioles resume at 6:05. You can see that game on MLB TV. Mets and Braves get underway on Apple TV 10 minutes later at 6:15. 20 minutes after that, you can catch the Sounds in action. They host Louisville once again, 6:35, your first pitch start time there. Got a trio of WNBA games tonight. Seattle is at Dallas at 6:30. That game will be on Ion. All these games will be on Ion, as a matter of fact. Also at 6:30, Minnesota at the Indiana Fever. And at 9 p.m. tonight, it'll be Golden State at Phoenix. We mentioned it earlier in NFL action. The Vikings and Titans will get underway tonight. You can see that game at 7 p.m. You can listen to it on Titans Radio. You can also catch it locally on WKRN, as that concludes our Friday schedule, a whopper of a Friday schedule.
But we're not done. High school football tomorrow night. East Nashville goes to Collierville. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff. There is another game on Saturday night. I think Shelbyville and Tullahoma play Saturday at Tullahoma. So check your local listings for that one. But I think that's a Friday night rivals matchup on my TV 30 as well. Volleyball tomorrow. Santa Fe takes on Zion Christian at 8 a.m. as part of the KD's Hope Classic over at Columbia Central. Also at 8 o'clock, it's Cookeville playing Siegel, not sure where. Summertown travels to Middle Tennessee Christian for a 9 o'clock first serve. Gallatin is at Middle Tennessee Christian at 10. Also, Roswell, Georgia plays Siegel at 10. Oxford, Mississippi plays Blackman at 10. Riverdale and Eagleville are playing at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Battle Creek plays Zion Christian again in the KD's Hope Classic at Columbia Central. That's a 10:30 start. At 12 noon, Jasper, Alabama faces Blackman. Also at noon, it's Evangelical Christian out of Memphis taking on Eagleville. University School of Jackson is at Middle Tennessee Christian at noon. Harpeth Hall takes on Riverdale. Silverdale Academy faces Riverdale at 1. Back at the KD's Hope Classic, it's East Hickman and Zion Christian at 1. Harpeth Hall faces Eagleville at 2. This must be a tournament over in Murfreesboro at MTCS. Yeah. Again, Harpeth Hall and Eagleville at 2. Also Sycamore and MTCS at 2. At 3, it's Evangelical Christian and Riverdale and Silverdale Academy and Eagleville.
More action continuing on Saturday at the prep ranks. Girls soccer beginning at 10:50 a.m. Centennial will meet Dobbins Bennett. Also at 10:50, it'll be Rockville versus Tennessee High School at 12:40. A couple of 12:40 kickoffs, as a matter of fact. Good Pasture taking on Concord Christian, and Frederick Douglass, Kentucky, will meet Mount Juliet. 2 p.m. start time for Hendersonville versus Bearden. At 2:30, West Jessamine, Kentucky, will meet Stewart's Creek. Corbin, Kentucky, meeting Dixon County at 4:20. Also at 4:20 will be Davies County, Kentucky, taking on Rockvale. A couple of 6:10 kickoffs as Good Pasture will meet Sevier County, and Brentwood Academy will meet Mount Juliet. Finally, closing our girls soccer schedule from Saturday night, Assumption, Kentucky, will meet Stewart's Creek in an 8 p.m. showdown.
Major League Baseball on Saturday at 6:05. The Astros and Orioles continue their series. You can see that one on MLB Network. At 6:15 on FanDuel Sports, the Mets continue at Truist Park against the Braves. Also at First Horizon at 6:35 tomorrow, the Louisville Bats and the Nashville Sounds continue their series. At 7:30 on Apple TV tomorrow evening, the Nashville Soccer Club returns to Geodis Park, where they will face Orlando City in a big MLS matchup. Trio of WNBA games tomorrow at 1 o'clock on CBS. It's the New York Liberty traveling to Atlanta, taking on the Dream. At 2 o'clock, it's the Las Vegas Aces at the Washington Mystics. And at 3 on the CBS Sports Network, it's the Connecticut Sun at the Chicago Sky, both of which playing out the string of regular season as they've both been eliminated from playoff contention.
Roll into Sunday, where we have girls soccer action beginning at 9 a.m. As Rockvale will meet West, and Bartlett will take on Mount Juliet. A little bit after that, at 10:50, Dixon County will meet Shelbyville, and at 2:30, it'll be Pope John Paul II tangling with Stewart's Creek. Major League Baseball, both games beginning at 12:35 on Sunday. Astros at Orioles and Mets at Braves. Sounds action begins at 6:05 on Sunday, and it'll be, again, Louisville trying to take care of business, but Nashville's been playing well at home this week, and again, 6:05 will be your designated first pitch time on Sunday. 3 WNBA games to close us out on 2 p.m. will be your start time as Seattle visits Washington. 3 o'clock, we'll see Golden State travel to Dallas, and at 6 p.m., you can see this game on CBS Sports Network. It'll be Indiana at Minnesota. That is your Sunday schedule. That's your weekend schedule, ladies and gentlemen. And that concludes today's rundown.
Story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia. Top story coming to you from women's college basketball, and from about 3 hours east of here, as Lady Vols guard Ruby Whitehorn, who was arrested on domestic violence charges earlier this month, has been suspended indefinitely. Whitehorn is currently not participating in team activities under second-year coach Kim Caldwell. Again, Whitehorn was originally arrested August 8th. Knox County Sheriff's Department responding to a domestic dispute call. Apparently, Whitehorn got into a physical altercation outside of a woman's residence, kicked in the woman's front door and bedroom door. Allegedly, the woman had taken Whitehorn's phone and her passport and locked the door, and Whitehorn was trying to get her property back. So, I guess the powers that be at UT are going to wait and let all of this shake out in the courts before determining what happens with Whitehorn, who transferred in from Clemson last year, started 28 of UT's 34 games last year, scored 11.5 points a game, averaged 4 rebounds as well. Big piece for UT in Coach Caldwell's second season, so not a great development here that she's at least missing some preseason time and possibly some in season time. But Ruby Whitehorn has been suspended indefinitely from the UT women's basketball team.
Yeah, tough news for all parties involved, really, and especially the Lady Vols, who are still, they feel like they're on the right direction, and they feel like they're kind of getting things in order, but it's still early in that coaching process for Caldwell. So, I mean, you don't want to necessarily rock the boat too much. You kind of want to keep things as close to status quo as possible until you can really kind of solidify and get your fingerprints all over the program. So a little bit of cause for concern right now. Hopefully this gets smoothed out sooner than later, and hopefully it ends as well as it's supposed to end. But not necessarily great development right now coming out of Knoxville.
No, that's not good news. Like you said, as you're trying to build on a pretty solid first season under a new coach, trying to get all of your momentum going forward on this thing, and to lose somebody who was as vital to the success that they had as Whitehorn was, this isn't a good situation. So like you said, hopefully things will get ironed out and taken care of, and it can be business as usual for the Lady Vols, Coach Caldwell and Ruby Whitehorn. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll be joined by Taylor ZARZOUR, play-by-play announcer for Tennessee Titans Radio. Stay tuned.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Titans with their final preseason matchup tonight at 7 o'clock against the Minnesota Vikings over at Nissan Stadium. And joining us to talk about them and the game is new Tennessee Titans radio play-by-play announcer Taylor ZARZOUR. Taylor, good afternoon, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're doing well, thanks.
Great.
Welcome to town.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm fired up to be here.
Well, we're fired up to hear that you're fired up. How's that? Now, how does it go? I mean, how often have you been in that booth trying to get ready for tonight?
I've spent a good amount of time in there. Obviously, did the Tampa game and the Atlanta game on the radio these last a couple of weeks, and fortunately, I've spent a lot of time in that stadium through the years calling games for ESPN. I've called 3 of the last 4 Music City Bowls and a lot of Vandy games, and of course was in Nashville years ago doing a sports radio show. So this is a dream come true. I've wanted to get back to Nashville for a long time, and excited to be here. But I guess to answer your question, yeah, I've spent a lot of time in the booth. Coach Mack and I were in there for the Back Together weekend at the end of July, and everybody knows where they're supposed to stand or sit, and excited tonight.
That's awesome. Obviously, coming in behind a guy who a lot of folks around here feel like is a legend, I'm sure that you just got to do what you got to do. But what was the thought process when this thing came open that you felt like this was something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it really was. I honestly, it was not on my radar at all because I thought Mike would do it for the rest of his career. And it makes sense. I mean, he loves his alma mater. He gets to teach there. He gets to be the voice of the Vols. He grew up loving the Vols, and I totally understand that. And I'm fired up for him. I love Mike. I think, like all of you, like everybody, I think Mike is fabulous at what he does. And if you're a Vols fan, I think you should be super excited to get to listen to him on Saturdays instead of on Sundays. But you just said it. That's what Mike said to me. Mike said, "Be you. Don't be me. Be you." And that's what I'll do. I've got a little bit of Alabama and North Carolina and Tennessee mixed into whatever this accent is, and I sound different than he does. And I have a ton of energy and passion that you will hear during the game. There is one thing that, and I keep saying this, but I'll keep saying it. There is one thing I'll certainly try to do that's just like him, and that is connect to the community. He did a fabulous job of that. I really admire him for that. It's something that's very fulfilling to me, being an extension of the community, and I want to speak for Titans fans as I'm calling the game. 99% of the people listening are Titans fans, so I certainly will try to do a great job of that because that's what he did. But I can assure you I will be myself. I will not try to be Mike.
Taylor, as you jump right in, and thanks again for joining us here, but as you jump in, you've obviously had these 2 weeks to kind of get things rolling. What have you liked or what have you maybe not liked as far as the team thus far, and kind of what are you maybe personally looking forward to seeing most out of this game tonight in our lone home preseason matchup?
Cam Ward. There's a lot. Honestly, I really like these rookies. I like how some of these veterans have embraced where the Titans are right now. Tyler Lockett and Cody Barton would be 2 examples of that. Tyler Lockett comes in after a decade of great play in Seattle, and he has been a leader on and off the football field. After each rep, he's going and talking to Cam Ward about what he's seeing and trying to make him understand why he is doing what he's doing, why Calvin Ridley is doing what he's doing. Calvin Ridley's in the best shape of his life. Jeffrey Simmons is in the best shape of his life. Some of the older guys have really embraced where the Titans are and bought into the culture. And Cody Barton on defense comes over after a great career. This is his 7th year in the league, and immediately he's become the guy that is always near the football. We'll be calling number 50's name a lot during the regular season, beginning where he used to play in Denver in a couple of weeks. So I love that. But listen, I understand where this team is. Mike Borgonzi, the new general manager, understands where this team is. This is a team just like the stadium that's being built right now. And I don't know, you don't know, nobody does what that means in terms of how many wins that produces in 2025. When you hit a hard reset and you have 50-plus players that are brand new that'll play tonight, and a bunch of new faces that'll be on the active roster when they play the Broncos, it's going to take a time to build that. Sometimes brand new teams end up in the playoffs in year one. In most cases, they turn into championship teams in year 2 and year 3. I really believe that's what's going to happen with the Titans. I do think that by the end of this season, you will see a team that is significantly improved from what you saw last year, and everyone will say, okay, I see it. This is where it's headed. I think that's what this year is about, is everyone buying in and having belief that this thing is headed in the right direction. And I am super confident we're going to see that. So to totally answer your question, I haven't really gotten to the, man, we need to scrutinize this part, because it's a hard reset. I don't think that makes any sense right now to say, well, they're not here yet. Well, obviously not. When you hit a hard reset and you have a general manager that's going to come in and build a team through the draft, then it's going to take some time to become a finished product. And Mike Borgonzi would say that if he was talking to us right here, right now.
Taylor, since you kind of opened that up just a minute ago, maybe you wonder, what is one position group entering this final preseason game tonight that we may have a real battle on our hands where guys are scrapping and clawing to maybe work their way onto the active roster? Can you spell us on a couple of position battles tonight?
Yeah, I think that Cedric Gray and James Williams are both going to make the roster. I think they're both going to play the other inside linebacker position next to Cody Barton. Cody Barton is your typical Mike linebacker in the National Football League. Cedric Gray and James Williams might play what is called the will linebacker. Both of them aren't necessarily will linebackers. Cedric Gray has been outstanding in the preseason and turned a lot of heads, a second-year player out of North Carolina. James Williams has been a safety his entire life until this preseason, and now he's a linebacker. And he's done a very good job of transitioning, but both of those guys are trying to learn new positions. So I think that'll be a fun battle to watch and see who, in fact, starts next to Barton when the regular season starts. I would think both of those guys are in the lineup, or on the team, rather, when the season starts. Another one to watch would be Julius Chestnut and Kalel Mullings at running back. Now, listen, Tyjae Spears is definitely going to be part of the 1-2 punch with Tony Pollard, but he's hurt right now. And as long as he's out, I think there's a chance that Chestnut and Mullings could be fighting for that last running back spot. And who knows, maybe Mike Borgonzi next week looks at the waiver wire and he sees a running back that he really likes on someone else's team to kind of get by him some time while Spears is out. Spears has been so good on third down, especially 2 years ago. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes and tries to find somebody like that if he can. And then you've got Chestnut or Mullings fighting for that third running back position. So those would be two battles that I would listen for tonight. And, then kick returner, punt returner, last wide receiver. There's a bunch of others that are going to be interesting too, but those are two that I really am singling out.
Taylor ZARZOUR, play-by-play announcer for Tennessee Titans football, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Taylor, I mean, everybody knows, like you said, this team was 3-14 last year. They were picking number one in the draft. A lot of room for upward mobility. I'm not sure how much attention you paid to the Titans last year, because obviously you didn't know that this was going to shake out like this. But have you managed to see improvement anywhere in particular through this preseason from anybody that's returning?
Yes. Jeff, let me just go through a couple. Jeffrey Simmons has lost about 10, 15 pounds, and Jeffrey Simmons is still just as good as an interior defensive lineman as he once was. Now he's going to be better as a defensive end from time to time. Think about Chris Jones with the Kansas City Chiefs. You can line Chris Jones up not just in the middle over the center or near the guard. You can put him on the edge and get him to fight against a tackle to get to the quarterback. I think number 98 for the Titans can do that now. He already was a premier elite interior defensive lineman. I think he's got more versatility in his game now. And Calvin Ridley, guys, I think he's going to catch. I mean, if he stays healthy for 17 games, and there's no reason to believe he wouldn't, but you know the way the world works. If he stays healthy, that guy has a chance to catch over 100 balls this year. He's 30 years old. He looks like he's 20 years old. He is truly in the best condition of his life. And I think that both of those guys look terrific. And then finally, if you were to ask me like who the MVP of the preseason was, training camp, practice, scrimmages, not necessarily the games because he only played in one, though he did score a touchdown. Tony Pollard looks awesome. He looks great out there. And listen, he had a career. I know that last year was 3-14. And to answer your question, I love Nashville. I pay a lot of attention to the Titans and have for many years. Tony Pollard's coming off a career high in rushing yards last year. In a season where the Titans went 3-14 and had to throw the football basically the entire second half, he had a career high in rushing yards. I think he's going to eclipse last year, this year. So I mean, those are three big time Titans that I've all seen improvement from. I think the place where the Titans fans want to see the most improvement is the guys protecting Cam Ward.
Mm-hmm.
J.C. Latham was born to be a right tackle, not a left tackle. That's what got him drafted in the first round. He was awesome at Alabama doing that. He'll be better at right tackle this year than he was at left tackle. And Dan Moore is a solid left tackle in this league. So you add Kevin Zeitler with that at right guard. Man, I think the Titans' offensive line will be significantly improved from last season.
And getting coached up by big coach doesn't hurt any either.
That's true. Yeah, Bill is one of the best in the world.
You know, I'm intrigued by your Calvin Ridley 100 catches because I was kind of doing some pretty quick math as you were saying that over a 17-game season, he's got to average 6 catches a game to get to 100. That'd be 102, I think, officially. But I know that he and Cam are already kind of developing that kind of chemistry and that kind of thing. 6 catches a game. You like that?
I'm in. Hold me to it. Let's keep talking about this as the season goes on. I'll tell you the big if with that. The big if with that is that Gunnar Helm, Chig Okonkwo, whether it's Van Jefferson, Alec Io-Manor is a rookie, the Tyler Lockett, the big key will be who else can take away the double team in the secondary. If somebody else gets a ton of respect, Westbrook Akine did some of that for the Titans, obviously last year, and he's gone. He's with the Dolphins now. But if somebody else can take away all of the attention that defensive backs pay Calvin Ridley, I'm absolutely doubling down on that prediction. Cam Ward, here's the thing. Guys, there are a lot of people in the National Football League that play quarterback, including the people that played quarterback for the Titans last year, that err on the side of caution. They're afraid to throw into a tight window. Let me just make this real clear to both of you and to everyone listening. Cam Ward has no fear in throwing into a double team or into any window. And yeah, if you watched him at Miami, that meant he threw some interceptions last year. He slung it around like crazy. And then he came back on the next drive and he threw a touchdown pass. He has a very short memory, but Calvin is going to have so many more targets with Cam Ward playing quarterback.
Taylor, I'm buying in on the hype just because of your excitement alone, but I have liked what I've seen thus far, and it does kind of feel like if you're going to lean on somebody, if you're Cam Ward, why not lean on your top target entering the season, and in addition to the fact that it seems like Ridley has kind of stepped his game up a notch even over the offseason.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I mean, just witnessing this each and every day, you can see that Cam is going to go back to the well and back to the well again. I had the pleasure of standing next to John Gruden at practice in Tampa a couple of weeks ago, and that's an experience in itself, by the way. And by the way, just when it's just you and him, he's exactly the same guy you see on social media. Unbelievable energy. But he was talking to me about how he's had so many guys he's had to coach into making throws into tight windows. And the thing he loved most about Cam is you'd much rather teach from a place where somebody is fearless. They're willing to make every throw. They think they can do everything. And Coach Brian Callahan, has talked a lot about that too. And Cam thinks he can do everything. And yeah, there are probably going to be some moments where you think, interception. But here's the thing. I know you guys probably know this. I love golf. When somebody makes a double bogey, a lot of times they'll make another bogey and another bogey. And we saw that with Titans quarterbacks last year. When Cam Ward makes a bogey or double bogey, he birdies the next hole. He has such a short memory, and I think that is going to serve the Titans really well, not just this year, but especially the future. And I know that we're all trained to think about how many wins will the Titans have this year. and I get how frustrated people are because of the last few years, especially last year. But I would ask you to think about the next few years. And as you're watching this Titans team, do you see a team that is going to get better and better and better? And I obviously have a lot of confidence in what I've seen the last couple of months.
Taylor, I was going to ask you too. You mentioned we've talked about Ridley as kind of that high-end elite weapon in a sense.
Taylor
but,
ZARZOUR, the new.
My screen froze there for a second. Sorry, guys. But Taylor, I wanted to ask you about a guy you mentioned a moment ago, Gunnar Helm, because I feel really optimistic about this guy. And Ridley is that high-end value target for Ward, but I'm really curious to see what Helm can bring to the table, in addition to Okonkwo, obviously.
Yeah, and look, I think Io Manor is a great pick. I think Femi Oladejo on defense is a great pick. I think Kevin Winston at safety is a great pick. I would argue that all of those guys have a learning curve, and it's going to take some time before you really can count on them at the National Football League level, which is understandable. I think Gunnar Helm could immediately make a difference for the Titans. Out of all those rookies, Ward obviously being the one that's going to make the biggest difference, but the rookie that I think could make the next biggest difference quickly is Gunnar Helm. And it would not surprise me if you see 84 Gunnar Helm and 85 Chig Okonkwo on the field at the same time a lot at the beginning of the year. The Titans organization has been so surprised, pleasantly surprised at his blocking ability. They knew they were getting a really good pass catching tight end. They didn't realize that this guy was going to be such a great blocker too. And he's had a terrific camp. I had a chance to spend some significant time with the Mannings this summer, and Arch raved about Gunnar Helm and in that Texas offense last year. I had a chance actually to call his game against Clemson when Texas won in Austin in that playoff game. And this is a guy that quickly can transition to National Football League. So I think that's a good call by you.
You know, they say that the tight end is a young quarterback's best friend in particular, and it feels like they've really set up again. It just feels like everything on offense that the Titans have done since getting Cam Ward has been for Cam Ward, which makes perfectly good sense.
Yeah, and look, I think that the big keys are, can you get a good 1-2 punch in the backfield? Spears is coming off a year that wasn't anywhere close to his rookie year. When he gets healthy, can he be that guy that complimented Derrick Henry 2 years ago? That's what Tony Pollard wants him to be this year. That's a big question. Is the offensive line as improved as I'm suggesting? Can they keep Cam Ward upright and give him time to throw? Who's the second best receiver? Is it still Tyler Lockett? Is it Van Jefferson? Is it Io Manor? Those are some questions I don't have the answer to yet, but the other things that we've addressed here, I'm really confident in for Cam.
You know, Taylor, you kind of talked about it, running back in some other spots where there might be some competitions going on. Is there anybody in particular that you feel like has to put something on tape tonight to be around here for a little bit? I mean, obviously cut downs are coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's what we just discussed earlier with running back, whether it's Mullings or Chestnut. I think Khalil Mullings probably is the guy that really needs to look good tonight. But I would tell you this, Cedric Gray in the first 2 preseason games had 7 tackles in each of those games and basically played a half. And Cedric Gray went from a guy that was fighting to make a roster to a guy that could be starting against the Denver Broncos. At least he'll have a chance. He'll be considered as one of those guys for the Titans on defense. So those are a couple of guys that already I think have made an impact in the preseason. And I would watch those guys closely tonight. Anybody else on defense that I think has a chance maybe tonight to make a roster? I don't know that if anybody's fighting for a roster spot necessarily outside of the ones that we just referenced. Another thing I would watch, guys, is the return game. James Prochet has had a really good training camp, and I don't think that Prochet was assumed to be a roster guy when this training camp started, but he is now. And you know, especially with Spears' injury, could a guy like Prochet or Tim Dike is definitely on the team, But if Chim Dike and Prochet, are those your return guys? Is one of them going to be the kick returner over the punt returner? That'd be another thing that I would watch closely tonight. I'll give you one, actually, on defense. Daryl Baker has had a really good preseason, and he's been playing alongside, obviously at cornerback, he's been playing alongside Jarvis Brownlee. And Baker, I think, has a chance to make a considerable difference this season, especially not knowing what you're going to get with L'Jarius Sneed. It's great that Sneed's been out there this week. It's a really good sign. And the hope is that he's ready to play by the time the season rolls around. But you need a guy like Daryl Baker, especially if Sneed's not ready. You need one of those guys to step up and play good cornerback. So he's another guy that I think has emerged in the last couple of months.
You mentioned Sneed. You mentioned guys that you hope are ready. Where do you feel like Lloyd Cushenberry is at this point?
He has had a great training camp. I think when training camp started, they were hoping that they would have him maybe by the end of September. I think now the belief is, now that you're seeing him in padded practices, I think the belief is that you'll see Lloyd Cushenberry by the time they play the Denver Broncos. I think that's the expectation now, barring any kind of setback. So yeah, he's had a great training camp, and he's maybe ahead of where they thought he would be a couple of months ago. Sneed's the iffy one. You just need to see him, really go through practice and go through a bunch of reps in these next couple of weeks to get ready for the season, and or when that starts for Sneed. But I'm highly confident that you're going to see Lloyd Cushenberry play when it matters in a couple of weeks.
Taylor ZARZOUR, play-by-play announcer for Tennessee Titans football, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Taylor, man, we really appreciate your time. Whoa.
Let me sneak just one in. Taylor, I know you said you didn't want to make any predictions, but I do got to ask you a tough question here. I know you're a big PGA guy, obviously. Does Tommy Fleetwood break through? He's tied for the leaderboard at East Lake right now, my man.
My goodness. I don't know how I could say that this is the week. And the guy's burned us so many times. And now here he is at the top of leaderboard again. Unbelievable. You know what? I think there's a real chance this could be the weekend. Maybe shaving the beard was what he needed to do. But I'm actually going there on Sunday to see the final round after we get done with this Friday night, rest a little bit tomorrow, and then head there to East Lake for the final. That'd be fun. Tommy's just one of the best guys in the world. I think that might be part of the problem, by the way. He might need a little more fire in his belly when it matters at the end of these tournaments. But that would be a popular victory, and I would much rather see him be happy on American soil this month than next month at Bethpage Black. So, that's a thing right now in the PGA Tour is Tommy Fleetwood's inability to close these tournaments. Man, he's playing some great golf.
Taylor ZARZOUR playing the long game with Tommy Fleetwood. Taylor, we appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking some time. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Look forward to seeing you at the games, and really appreciate you asking.
Thank you, Taylor.
All right, see you guys.
Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Miller. Main Street Media is partnering with Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Superspeedway to send a family of 4 to the race August 31st. To register, please visit any Main Street Media website and look for the Register Here banner. You'll also receive some fantastic Borchetta Bourbon Music City merchandise. We look forward to seeing you at the race.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
August 22nd, 1948, Jackie Robinson stole home as part of a triple steal, and the Brooklyn Dodgers finished the day with 8 steals, but Clint Knatzer's 2-run homer in the 8th inning bailed out the Boston backstop tandem of Bill Salkeld and Phil Massey as the Braves won 4-3 at Ebbets Field. The Bums hadn't been such on the bases, converting their last 19 attempts against Boston, but the Braves extended their National League lead to 2 games over Brooklyn with the win. Warren Spahn came on with 1 out in the bottom of the 8th and held the hosts scoreless to pick up the save. That was this day in Braves history. You stole 8 bases and lost. Man, that's
just think if you didn't steal 8 bases.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, how bad would things have been? Yeah, I don't think the Braves are going to steal 8 bases tonight against the Mets. I don't know that they've stolen 8 bases in a month, but they have won 10 of their last 12 games coming into this matchup with the Mets and kind of giving Braves fans something to kind of rally behind here down the stretch. 58-69 after taking 2 of 3 from the White Sox here earlier in the week. The Mets come in at 67-60. Last week at Citi Field, the Mets won 13-5 to open that series, which is interesting because in the month of August, the Mets are 5-13. If you're into numbers, there's that. Nolan McLean gets the start for the Mets. He's 1-0 with a ERA of 0. Joey Wentz 2-1 with a 4.15 ERA, continuing to be a waiver wire find for the Braves. Getting the start tonight. Again, Atlanta trying to stay hot, having won 10 of their last dozen here. You know, does it matter? But it's just a little easier to be entertained when they're doing well, even in such a not so great season.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Props to anybody. Props to you for watching. That's like I said, the good thing and bad thing about baseball is it's a long season, and that goes both ways. So there, be nice to end on some positive vibes. What you really kind of hope is that you end up in a spot where you can really play some spoiler action down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I was talking to somebody last night. Again, get back to 500. Get Drake Baldwin Rookie of the Year. Keep Michael Harris II rolling. Get Ozzie going. We just got word that Austin Riley has had season-ending abdominal core surgery, is what they referred to it as. Sounds like maybe he had a sports hernia or something. I'm not sure, but he's done for the year. And that's, it's just as well. Just go home, get better, get ready for 2026. The Astros picked up a 7-2 win last night against Baltimore, kind of getting some get back against a guy who took a perfect game into the 8th against him the last time he started, Brandon Young. So kind of knocked Young around a little bit. Christian Walker, Yanier Diaz with home runs, a pair between them, 1 each. Jesus Sanchez going 5 for 5 in that 7-2 Astros victory. Houston going to 12 games over 500 with that win at 70-58. They'll try to string some together tonight against 605. It's Lance McCullers Jr. going for the Astros. He of the 2-4, 6.90 earned run average. KAYE, don't call me Maury Povich, 2-6, 4.98 starting for Baltimore tonight.
Hopefully reel off another win, kind of take care of business. Somebody's got to win this division. Doesn't look like the Mariners really want it. Doesn't really, at times, look like Houston wants it. And everybody else is out of contention at this point. So buckle up, baby, coming down the stretch. It'd be nice to get another couple wins over the course of the weekend here.
Seattle trailing by 2, hosting the Athletics this weekend. So might be a chance for them to put something together. So Houston, a little bit of pressure and a little bit of scoreboard watching, I would imagine, down there as again, the Mariners will host the Athletics of West Sacramento. Milwaukee picked up its 80th victory of the year yesterday, winning at Wrigley Field 4-1 over the Cubs. They are up 7 in the NL Central now as they host San Francisco this weekend. The Cubs going to Los Angeles, taking on the Angels and trying to cut into that deficit there in the NL Central again. So Milwaukee's been on a heater.
But the Cubs showing a little signs of life. It feels like these guys, I believe that's the last time they're going to meet all season. So the fact that they stretched that series out over the course of what felt like 2 weeks, savor the flavor, because we're not probably going to see it again unless we get into the postseason. So Chicago showing a little signs of life, but yeah, too little too late probably. They picked a bad time to not really do so well at the same time that Milwaukee got on that great run. And yeah, Kyle Tucker been on the milk carton basically. They've tried taking him out of the lineup. They tried easing him back in. Nothing is kind of going right. Every kind of move that the Cubs have tried to make up until this week really has not been working out in their favor, but just enough of a pulse. Fangraphs gives them a small chance to win the division, around 8.5%. It would take a collapse on Milwaukee's part to try and lose this thing.
Pretty significant collapse, feels like. When we talked last week about the San Diego Padres, we were talking about the NL West leaders. Right now, they are looking up at the Dodgers by a game as the Dodgers come to Petco Park for a series starting tonight. Again, LA 73-55, the Padres 72-56, and you've got Boston and New York playing this weekend, but this might be the hottest rivalry in baseball at this point when these two get together.
Absolutely. Heard you and David talking about that on the show yesterday. And yeah, it feels like there's a lot obviously on the line. And, the NL is obviously the Brewers being in that equation too. If you don't win that division, the Phillies are what the Phillies are. They're still going to be a team that probably wins over 90 games, if not maybe 95 games by the end of the year. And so there's not a lot of wiggle room. If you can't win that division, you're really kind of putting yourself in a little bit of a bind heading into the postseason. So that will be a thrilling battle this weekend. The Dodgers are listed on, again, for Fangraphs at 75% to win the division, but that could change in the blink of an eye, especially at the end of this series.
On Tuesday against Louisville, Raynel Delgado hit for the cycle. On Wednesday, he hit a home run. Yesterday, he drove in the game-winning run. The Sounds defeating Louisville 8-7 last night over at First Horizon Park. 3-0 in the series are the Sounds against the Bats. Let's see what Raynel does tonight in this 6:35 start. But the Sounds, who had struggled a little bit of late, again, have won the first 3 games of this series, looking to clinch the series with a win tonight. So big doings for the Sounds over at First Horizon Park as they continue what is a 12-game homestand. They'll finish up this series on Sunday against Louisville, take Monday off, and then they've got Charlotte coming in for 6 starting on Tuesday. So good time to get over and see the Sounds if you have the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Our number 1 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is in the books. Come back with us after this break for hour number 2. We'll get into the grab bag. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
It's hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In the next segment, we'll be visiting with Jordan KAYE of the state out of Columbia, South Carolina, talking a little Gamecock football as we continue our Southeastern Conference football previews. We'll also get into a little NSC as they return home this weekend. Final regular season race final regular season Cup Series race for NASCAR as they go to Daytona this weekend. And Wade and I will be picking some college football outcomes as we get started on our picks for the season. Interesting weekend here in, I guess they call it week 0 at the collegiate level, even though we don't use that term for Tennessee high school football anymore. But let's get started getting into the grab bag. And as I mentioned, the Southeastern Conference, I hope everybody's happy now from all these other conferences, you know, Kurt Signetti and everybody else who've had so much to say about SEC football schedules. The SEC will go to a 9-game conference football schedule starting in 2026. Adding a 9th SEC game underscores our university's commitment to delivering the most competitive football schedule in the nation, said Commissioner Greg Sankey. This format protects rivalries, increases competitive balance, and paired with our requirement to play an additional power opponent, ensures SEC teams are well prepared to compete and succeed in the college football playoff. So again, SEC teams will be playing a 9-game conference schedule. They will also play a comparable, SEC teams are required to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference from the Atlantic Coast, Big 10, or Big 12 conferences, or Notre Dame each season. So you're playing 9 conference games plus a Power 4 opponent from outside your conference for your 10th. I guess that means everybody's lining up to try to play Lindenwood and West Alabama for games 11 and 12, right?
Yeah. Keep your UT chats and keep, like you said, Sanford, if you can get them on the schedule somehow even, right? I mean, anybody and everybody. This kind of evens the playing field in a sense, and this obviously is going to be fascinating, just like we saw with conference realignment and SEC expansion, but also just like we saw years ago when we added Missouri into the mix and Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to kind of get creative because there are so many storied rivalries. They can't all be kind of held to the standards that you kind of would hope that they would be held to. So it is going to be still a little bit of a juggling act. And, we obviously have poked fun at Texas getting maybe the softest schedule known to mankind in terms of SEC play for the first 2 years. That probably will change. Every dog has its day, so to speak. Oklahoma won't have to play the most brutal one every year. First 2 years, though, you're stuck with it, I guess. But going forward, it'll be fascinating. We're always going to have something to gripe about as long as this kind of continues until we get closer and closer toward, that super league that does eventually end up forming here. This is kind of the best we got for now.
Each team will play 3 annual opponents focused on maintaining many traditional rivalries. Each team's remaining 6 games will rotate among the remaining conference schools, and each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years, and every opponent home and away in 4 years. Man, I don't know who will have written the computer program that spits that out, but they will have earned their money by the time it's all done, I would think. There's a lot there. Meanwhile, Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports tweeted earlier, the SEC will use 3 considerations for determining each school's 3 permanent opponents: geography, rivalry, and balance. He guessed at what those would look like 3 years ago, and of local interest in particular, Vanderbilt's 3 permanent opponents would be Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Missouri. Again, this according to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. This is strictly a guess. There's nothing official here, so take all of this with a grain of salt. Tennessee's 3 permanent opponents would be Vanderbilt, Alabama, and South Carolina. So you get Sandman every other year. I'm sorry, Space Odyssey every other year if you're a UT fan. It's interesting. Texas's 3 permanent opponents would be Oklahoma, A&M, and Arkansas. A&M's would be LSU and Mississippi State in addition to the Longhorns. Georgia's permanents would be Auburn, Florida, and Kentucky. Florida's would be Georgia, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. And again, this is Dellinger's guess, but it's interesting to just look at and kind of conjecture as to how certain teams landed on certain teams' permanent list. And, when it becomes official, that's going to be an interesting aspect of this as well, I would think.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of what we were getting at a minute ago, right? I mean, there's so many great and historic rivalries in this league, whether that is from a geography standpoint, whether that's from a competitive standpoint, or whether that's just from a flat out, we don't like you standpoint, you're not like us type situation here.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you're Tennessee, you can make the case one way or the other on this proposed list. Vanderbilt, Alabama, and South Carolina. Not having to play Georgia, not having to play Florida every year. I get you want to beat those guys, but if you're not beating them, this is not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
There is that. Self-preservation is a thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and, Vanderbilt, we've talked about, they had a great season last year, but they obviously have been the punching bag in that league for a long, long time. And if you're one of these opponents that does draw them as a quote-unquote rival, you're probably thinking, okay, glad we're not getting Oklahoma, or glad we don't have Texas as our rival when we got Vandy kind of shined up nice and neat for us every year. And yeah, there's going to be one-off. This league is so deep and so competitive. There will always be an upset and always be a hot team here and there that can pull anything out of its hat. But this is fun, and this is classic sports fodder, sports radio fodder here, because this is kind of our best guess, and this is definitely a guess to bide us another 3 or 4 years until we're probably having another similar conversation.
Without question. We talked during the rundown at the top of the show, little WNBA. Wade's really liking what his Las Vegas Aces are looking like right now. Winners of 9 straight following last night's victory. And I've forgotten who that was over. But they are suddenly looking pretty good. There was an article that ran, I don't know if it was in the Review Journal out of Vegas, but someone wrote something about the Aces and Becky Hammon, and the phrase was, sometimes you're buried, sometimes you're planted, and that's kind of it kind of feels like the Aces have been planted. They struggled a lot here early on, but they've got everything going in the right direction. 83-61 win over Phoenix last night, again for their 9th straight, and they are in the top 3 in the league standings as the regular season winds down.
Yeah, they're finally kind of coming into their own, and they're kind of finally finding a little bit of rhythm, but they're also obviously still leaning massively on A'ja Wilson. And, baby, I am so glad. I had all these tickets on Fee winning the MVP, but about 3 weeks ago, I said, you know what? I need to get me a little A'ja just in case. And I know, no disrespect to Alyssa Thomas, but choo, like a freight train, here comes A'ja Wilson, choo, choo, choo. And she has closed from 25-1 when I got her a couple weeks ago. She's now plus 250. So we basically have a race in the sense of, does Collier come back and have any sort of impact? If she comes back and has an impact, it still feels like it's hers to lose. But if she doesn't return and meet kind of some criteria, or doesn't, swoo or woo the voters, then yeah, it's going to be A'ja, who is single-handedly kind of dragging this team. They're the hottest in the league right now. I don't know that they still have the goods to make it maybe beyond. I don't think they're bound for the WNBA finals still. I hate to say that, but it has been one heck of a run, and this is kind of the very best of the team we're seeing right now.
Now tell me something, Wade, because I'm not real sure that I understand entirely. Is it an East and a West playoff, or is it just the top 8 with no regard to conferences?
I'm under the understanding that it's still conference based, but okay. I was also under the understanding until Willie G corrected me that we were still 3-game best of 3 in the first round before I was told otherwise. So I'm assuming, still conference based. And the Aces will be right there. I mean, it's going to be them and the Mercury, and 2 teams that are kind of going in opposite directions right now. Vegas is absolutely flying, just literally the zombie Aces right now coming from the dead, whereas the Mercury have really, really cooled off from a sizzling start to the year. They're going to be okay, and in my mind, I hate to say it again, the Phoenix Mercury are still probably the better team if and when they gel heading into the postseason. But for right now, it's good to be Aces. But also right now, at the end of the day, we're still talking about everybody trailing the Lynx in the Minnesota Lynx Invitational, known as the WNBA playoffs.
Meanwhile, the Dream has surged to the top of the East. Again, big win last night over those said Lynx. And, as much as I like the Dream and I like the Aces, I feel bad for the Liberty because they're dealing with some injuries. They just lost to a non-playoff bound Chicago Sky team by 6 last night. But it feels like when they get Stewart and when they get former Hillsborough standout Isabel Harrison back, watch out. So I don't know. They're struggling right now. And again, they trail the Atlanta Dream by a game at the top of the Eastern Conference. And I'm not sure how much difference 1 or 2 will make necessarily, but I just feel like that Liberty team is a really dangerous team, regardless when they're fully healthy.
Could be. The thing is, though, we're getting so close to the end of the regular season. We got about 2 or 3 weeks left. You're getting so close that, okay, yeah, you're back. But we've seen it across all sports. Very rarely does one player or multiple players coming back, you just snap right into your normal routine, right? If they get back, if they get acclimated, sure. But it is a very delicate balancing act. Same deal with the Lynx. They're built a little deeper, however. That's why they've been able to absorb the loss of Nafisa Collier, who still they thought she might go last night. She ends up not playing, obviously. And so as a result, they're built to kind of withstand that. The Liberty we're seeing, yeah, they're fragile. And if they don't have their stars at full capacity, they're not quite the same punch that we saw them last year. It is going to be a fun kind of case study watching them, especially down the stretch.
You and Taylor mentioned it when we were talking a little bit ago. Tommy Fleetwood and Russell Henley tied at 13 under. They are both done at the second round of the PGA Tour Championship down at East Lake. Both of them 2 strokes up on Cameron. Bobby McIntyre a stroke back of Young. He and Patrick Cantlay tied for 4th. Scheffler 6th, 8 under for the tournament. 69 today after a 63 yesterday. But I mean, do you want to be in front of Scheffler or behind Scheffler? I mean, he showed us on Sunday. In front of him ain't necessarily a great spot either.
It ain't a great spot, but this guy doesn't lose when he's got the lead. He's vintage Tiger in that regard. So, yeah, you'll take your chances if you're Fleetwood or Henley. It feels like them two will be kind of duking it out over the course of the weekend. And, yeah, you mentioned Taylor. Man, Taylor's got the how about that for a dream situation, Mo? The week you get announced as the new Titans play-by-play announcer, you're also still working the Masters for SiriusXM. I mean, talk about a dream situation there. But I digress. Fleetwood, it will be kind of up to him to exercise those demons. If he does not, man, it is going to be a long, hard offseason because he has flirted with victory. This is the 3rd time in the last 2 months that we've talked about him entering the weekend with a big lead or with a share of the lead at least. If he does not pull it out, it would be such a cool story. It would be such a great redemption arc if he can do it. But until we see him do it, I don't know that you could trust him. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the field unfolds this weekend.
Up at Williamsport, Pennsylvania, the Little League World Series is down to 4 teams. Bunch of kids heading back to school, I guess, and probably none too happy about it. But we got down to the Final 4 last night as Nevada defeated Irmo, South Carolina in the final elimination game. On the international side, Aruba eliminated Venezuela. So your international championship game on Saturday will be between Aruba and Chinese Taipei, and your U.S. championship game will be between Nevada and Connecticut. Connecticut defeating Nevada on Wednesday night to set up that Nevada-South Carolina matchup yesterday. So, man, it's always intriguing to me watching these 12-year-olds or sometimes younger and
sometimes older.
Some of the stuff that they do on a baseball field, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, sometimes older and sometimes way older, but we digress. Yeah, but again, Nevada and Connecticut in the U.S. championship game tomorrow. Aruba and Chinese Taipei in the international championship game tomorrow. Those winners will play Sunday for the Little League World Series Championship. Should be some fun stuff. Looking forward to watching that. Let's go ahead and take a break here as the weekend warm-up continues on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will talk a little South Carolina football with Jordan KAYE from the state. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. As we continue our Southeastern Conference football previews, we welcome in Jordan KAYE of the state out of Columbia, South Carolina, to talk a little Gamecock ball. Jordan, thanks for joining us. Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. So as we look at the Gamecocks, looking at the preseason SEC predictions, they are picked just outside of the top four, fifth behind in ascending order, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Jordan, what, as you look at this team, makes that wrong?
I don't know that it's wrong. I think it's a pretty good spot for them. You look at this South Carolina team coming off a 9-4 season. It brings back Lenore Sellers, one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the entire country, and they return, a couple key players, a really good running back in Oscar Attaway. They return both tackles on the offensive line. They return Dylan Stewart, an edge who might be one of the best defensive players in college football. This is a team right now with a lot of upside. And as you guys know, college football is often determined by how good is your quarterback. And South Carolina thinks it has one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Talk a little bit more about him. What has he done maybe from last year to this year to kind of go to that next level?
Yeah, he's working with a new offensive coordinator. Mike Shula is in there. And the big emphasis is, hey, be a better passer. There was a lot of times last season where it would look like he was about to get sacked. He would make some Houdini play, get out of it, and ended up running down the field. But, that was the product sometimes of him not hitting a wide receiver who he should have hit. Or, hey, he was in a drop, there's a tight window, and he doesn't think he can get it there, so he kind of tucks it and runs, and sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. This time it's, hey, trust your arm, trust your footwork, see the route and just make the throw. And then obviously, if no one's open, pocket breakdown or whatever, then you run. But that shouldn't be your first option. And, this is a South Carolina team that's been sacked. Quarterbacks have been sacked 41 times the last 2 seasons. So they really need to clean that up.
Jordan, if you're into vibes, South Carolina was maybe the most vibey team of all down the stretch last year. And they were really, really rolling right up until Illinois clipped them in the bowl game. Can they simply, what must they do? Is this a team that needs to get off to a fast start in your mind to kind of recapture some of that momentum they closed the regular season with last year?
I think you're exactly right. I mean, last year was almost a dream where, midway through the season, you're kind of wondering like, hey, like what's next for this team? And by the end, it's like, how are they not in the playoff? It was crazy. Right. And you look at this South Carolina schedule, it's really, the front half is not too difficult. You got a couple tough games in there. Missouri, Vanderbilt. You open against Virginia Tech, but these are not world beaters. And then you get to October, and it's LSU and Alabama and Oklahoma and Ole Miss and Texas A&M. It's like, oh, baby. If you're not 5-0 going into that LSU game, all of a sudden, the playoff picture gets a little bit trickier. So I think it's very important for them to get off to a good start. Some people think, 5-0 is kind of where they have to be given the first 5 games of their schedule. But, yeah, they need to keep rolling with that momentum.
As they kind of kick things off, obviously at least on paper, kind of a household name of Virginia Tech to start the season. You would assume, obviously, that South Carolina probably takes care of business in that game. But what would the South Carolina fans, or what would you personally like to see out of that team in their opener to kind of give you a hope that, yeah, they can maybe start 5-0?
2 things. I think, one, they've got to just, make sure – they have a bunch of young receivers that haven't been tested yet. A lot, 6 freshmen they're bringing in. Hey, are these guys legit? If Lenore Sellers progresses all this much, it doesn't mean anything if the guys around him aren't good. So that's the one thing I'm going to be really looking for. Are these freshman wide receivers legit? And then second, they lost 7 defensive starters, and Virginia Tech's not an incredible team, won 6 games last year, but they return a veteran quarterback in Kyron Drones who has dual threat ability. So can this South Carolina defense that lost 7 guys last year keep him in check and really shut down Virginia Tech?
Jordan Kaye of the State joining us here on Main Street Sports today as we talk South Carolina football. Jordan, obviously with Lenore Sellers coming back, a lot of attention paid to the offensive side of the ball under Shane Beamer. Talk a little bit about this defense and what you like and what concerns you over there.
What I like is they got Dylan Stewart coming off the edge, and he's going to draw plenty of double and triple teams this season, which is going to help everyone else out. They also have, a lot of depth in the secondary. They did lose some pieces, namely a safety, Nikki Manwari, who went early in the second round, but they have depth there. I think what I'm really looking at is they lost their top 5 defensive tackle. Are those the guys there going to be able to step up? And then who's going to be that edge, that pass rusher opposite Stewart? Can that guy get at least some pressure on the quarterback and make Stewart's life a little bit easier?
Who is vying for that other edge besides Stewart? Away from Stewart.
Yeah, they've had some injuries, so it's tough. But there's a guy, Brian Thomas Jr., who had 4.5 sacks last year, a veteran dude who hasn't started almost just because the dudes in front of him have been so good. But he's a guy to look at of, hey, he might be able to come in right away and be a guy who gets, 7, 8, 9 sacks.
Another guy I wanted to ask you about while we're talking defense, and man, it feels like Florida State just got plucked dry in the portal from a number of different teams. But what does Sean Murphy potentially bring to this South Carolina defense? A junior to me that feels like he could really flow to the football.
Yeah, linebacker's another spot. They lost their top 3 guys. And so Sean Murphy, I think right now is vying for one of those starting jobs alongside a sophomore in Fred Johnson, who they think very highly of. But yeah, Sean Murphy's one of those guys where it's like, he's been, I think, at Alabama and Florida State and still doesn't have very much film. So he's on his 3rd team vying right now for a starting job. I'm not exactly sure how much we're going to see him, but he's definitely going to play, and, an athletic dude who should be able to see the field and make an impact.
While we're talking portal, it feels like you can't have any kind of preview across the SEC in particular without discussing who are some other big names and how well, in your mind at least, did South Carolina do in terms of either retaining players from the portal or bringing guys in?
On the retention part, few teams in the country, I think, did as well as South Carolina. They basically lost no impact players at all. You keep Sellers, you keep Dylan Stewart, you keep basically no starter left for the portal. That's a major win right now in college football. So that was huge. As far as the guys they brought in, a couple of dudes, in the secondary, Brandon Cisse, a kid from NC State. They brought in Sean Murphy, there's another linebacker from Alabama. They brought in Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, a defensive tackle. He was a former 5-star part of that crazy 2022 Texas A&M recruiting class. And then they brought in a running back, Rasul Faison from Utah State, who's in this weird bind right now because he's applying for like a 7th year of eligibility. he's had a crazy journey. He really has only played 3 years of college football, and the NCAA still hasn't cleared him. So he submitted his waiver in January, and we're like 10 days out from the season. He doesn't know if he's playing yet. So that's a weird one, but he was a guy expected to be maybe the number one, if not number two running back. And a lot of people thought, hey, if South Carolina has an 800-yard rusher, 1,000-yard rusher, it was going to be him. And we still don't know if he's going to play. So that's kind of the big thing in Columbia right now is, hey, what's the NCAA doing? Are they ever going to clear this kid?
Speaking of which, and speaking of transfers and vibes, Damon, I'm going to whisper this last, Damon Clowney. Are you telling me, Damon, excuse me. All right, so Damon
Clowney. Be Demon. I got to check.
I got two different pronunciations, but rest assured, Jadavion's cousin, does he have any sort of juice compared to what we saw the real Demon Clowney do for the Gamecocks years ago?
I mean, he's not Jadavion Clowney. Let's calm that down right now. But he is a very good player, and with all these injuries at that edge position, he's going to be another dude rotating in with Brian Thomas Jr. Out of fall, I mean, there has been a lot of praise for him, and he's a tougher one to evaluate because he got in, I think, during the summer. So, you didn't have that whole spring to understand the playbook. But, man, every scrimmage, it seems like there's more and more praise on him. I think he's going to be one of those guys who, after a couple of games of figuring the playbook out more, he's going to be a stud. And, it'll be kind of fun to watch South Carolina games and hear Clowney from the broadcaster's voice.
Yeah, nobody really ever put away their 7 jerseys, but it'd be nice to at least see them kind of floating around again in Columbia.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan, as you talk about Sellers and obviously things for South Carolina on the offensive side of the ball kind of go as he goes, but he got banged up a little bit last year. Who is QB2 and how much of a drop-off is there should he have to step on the field?
Big drop-off. Their QB2 is like a sixth-year guy named Luke Doty, who basically started games at quarterback in 2020. He moved to receiver when Spencer Rattler came in. He hardly even touched the field last year. And then somehow they moved him back to quarterback, and now he's the backup. It's kind of an odd transition, circuitous college career. He can run the offense. He's a very, very smart guy. I think he would be fine operating things, but he is not going to bring the athleticism, the talent of a Seller. So it would certainly be a big drop-off. I don't know if he's a guy he's not going to lose you games, but I don't know if he's going to necessarily, elevate the Gamecocks and win them, a conference championship or anything.
While we're talking them and while we're talking offense, a lot of folks know Nick Harbor because he's the fastest guy in the history of the NCAA video game franchise. Does that equate in any way? Does he have a breakout junior season in some capacity?
Everyone thinks this is the year. He quit track, which was a really big deal out here. He qualified for the Olympic trials last year and then kind of was like, hey, I got to focus on football. So this was the first time in his college career he went through spring practice, and that was just massive for him. You watch this guy run routes this fall compared to last fall, it's night and day. I mean, he is so much smoother. Even the way he catches the football is more natural. So if this is not Harbor's breakout season, it's hard to think that it'll be coming. There's a lot of expectations on him this year of hey, man, if not now, then when?
Again, Jordan, as you look at this schedule, it doesn't just get hard in the second half. It gets borderline impossible. You go to LSU the second weekend in October. Then you've got Oklahoma and Alabama coming to you. And let's see, a trip to Ole Miss, a trip to A&M, then Coastal and Clemson coming to Williams-Brice to finish things up. I mean, even if you are maybe in the playoff picture as you come out of SEC play, you still got 2 really tough games at home, but 2 really tough games.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, that's why it's so tough. But, there is some part of – we don't know how good some of these SEC teams are going to be. I remember last year they had Oklahoma on their schedule, and it was like, oh, that's a loss. And then Oklahoma was a dumpster fire by the middle of the year. And so there is some uncertainty of, hey, what do the young quarterbacks look like at Alabama, and what do and at Ole Miss? But yeah, there's no doubt if South Carolina is making a playoff, I mean, it is going to have to squeak out probably some really tight games. The one thing I'll say is they've played really well on the road the last couple of years. The last 2 times they've gone to Clemson, they've won there. Last year, they nearly beat Alabama at Alabama. They won convincingly at Oklahoma, won convincingly at Kentucky. Like, this is a team that does not have a huge drop-off on the road, which gives you a little bit of hope in that those A&M, Ole Miss, LSU games. And then you're hoping you can take care of business at home against, who's that, Oklahoma, Clemson, Coastal Carolina.
As you say that, not knowing really who's good to some degree, what is a game that you're looking at that you feel like would kind of give you some indication of where South Carolina 2025 is?
I think the first one is Missouri. Like, that's another one of those teams where you're like, I have no idea if that team's going to be good. But Missouri has historically given South Carolina a ton of problems. Just like Eli Drinkwitz has had their number. They needed like a last-second touchdown last year to beat Missouri. And I think that's going to be a really good test of, hey, can you go to Missouri, a place you've hardly ever won, and come out with a victory? Can your defense look good against, I think that Missouri running back is going to be really good. So can your defense stop them? And then can your offense just win convincingly? Can you put up 35 points at Missouri? And I think that would be a really, really good early season indicator of, hey, this team is going to be right in the hunt in the SEC.
Speaking of the SEC and kind of talking through their schedule, Jordan, I always like to ask, Vegas has got the over-under listed at 7.5 in terms of total wins. It's got over-under 3.5 in league play. Do you like the over or under on both of those sides?
I like the over on the 7.5. What was the league one again?
3.5.
I probably like the over on that one too, because I'm thinking, okay, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and they probably get one at home somewhere. But yeah, I was looking at that line, and initially I was like, man, that's way too low. That's crazy. And then it's like you look at the schedule again, you're like, well, I can understand how Vegas came up with that number. So 7.5, I'll take the over, probably just barely. I think my prediction will be 9 wins, but one could easily go the other way. I could see 8. But yeah, I think it was kind of crazy looking at how many different teams Vegas had right around that 7.5 win mark. I think it was like Missouri, Auburn. I think Florida might have been in there too. So it was like a lot of these schools are kind of bunched up right there. But yeah, I'll take the over.
It feels like you're our third or fourth guest this week, obviously, and it feels like every league wins has been set at 3.5. For whatever reason, getting to 4 wins alone is a big hump for a lot of these teams we've talked to thus far.
Yeah, it's funny, too, like looking at other beat reporters do their prediction. It's like everyone at Oklahoma thinks that they're going to beat South Carolina. Everyone at South Carolina thinks they're going to beat Oklahoma. It's like the same thing with like Texas A. Every South Carolina fan thinks Texas A&M DZ. Every A&M fan thinks South Carolina. Same with Missouri. Like there are some of these games where it's, I think sometimes early in the season you kind of just look at the brand. It's like, you can beat South Carolina or you can beat A&M. It's like, some of them, sometimes you have no idea, especially this year with so many of the young quarterbacks.
And I think there's a lot of that, like you said, across the SEC. I mean, when you look at all of these schedules, it feels like just about everybody is good, and there aren't a lot of gimmies. Welcome to the 16-team conference. But we were talking right before you came on, Jordan. They're going to the 9-game schedule next year for conference play. What's been the immediate reaction to that around the Gamecocks?
The immediate reaction from the fan base is South Carolina has got to start paying some buyouts and getting out of contracts. Because, with South Carolina, they've got that Clemson game at the end of the season. And so, although that 9-game SEC schedule, you still have to play a Power 4 opponent. Well, South Carolina does that every year with Clemson. Same at, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Louisville, whatever. The problem is, like, South Carolina has also been then scheduling another Power 4 opponent. So for the next 2 years after this season, it has Miami. So it's going to, like...
It had Miami.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it would cost them, right now, it would cost them $3 million to get out of that. Miami might also want to get out, and they can maybe make a deal. But, man, if you go into a season with 9 SEC games, Miami and Clemson, like, good luck. So a lot of the other schedules were written with better contracts where it only costs like $500,000 to get out. And, if the ACC also goes to a 9-game schedule, some of those schools might be like, let's ditch this thing as quick as possible. But, yeah, I think that's the immediate reaction is South Carolina going to have to play Clemson and someone else going to, schedule like Wake Forest or something every year? That's a little bit of the fear, but also, part of the territory of, being in this state.
Shane Beamer may stroke that check himself, Jordan.
He last night he went on his radio show and was talking about it and was like, I want to play in these games, but then he's like, but I also want every other school to have to play the games too. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So, you're kind of reading the tea leaves on that one a little bit.
Absolutely. Jordan Kaye of the State joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little Southeastern Conference and South Carolina Gamecocks football. Jordan, we appreciate you taking some time with us and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks, fellas. Anytime. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Let's take a break. Let's get into our final segment of the show as we get you ready for the weekend with a little soccer, a little stock car racing, and some college football picks. Stay tuned.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier Whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
Welcome back in for the final segment of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. It feels like, Wade, the boys in gold will be happy to be back at the Castle this weekend because, again, the road has not been very kind. Last 3 games have been on the road, and they've all resulted in L's for the Nashville Soccer Club. Back at Geodis tomorrow night. They've got Orlando City coming in. It's not a bad side, but just being at home feels like is going to give those guys an advantage tomorrow night.
You would think so. And last night at the high school game was talking with Lucas Penzico, who is the radio voice for Nashville Soccer Club, and man, we grimaced when we brought the topic up. The guys are obviously not playing well, bad run of form at the moment. as we've also discussed, they kind of were playing above the bar, so to speak, earlier this year. We're kind of trending back down toward the norm. But the situation is you got 2 home matches, and you desperately have to win at least one of these 2. And if you for some reason can't knock off Orlando, you are faced with a absolute must-win next Saturday versus Atlanta, versus a putrid Atlanta team by all accounts this season, which is still a rival though. So you desperately need to grab at least a point this week and at this weekend, because if not, you put that much more pressure. And sometimes, especially in soccer, pressure has a weird way of kind of creeping in. And you may look back at the end of the season, and you're going to scratch your head and say, how did we give up points when we went on the road to St. Louis? How in the world did we give up points when we played Atlanta at home? Everything else kind of shakes out, and it kind of plays out more often than not the way it feels like it's supposed to. But if you're not careful, things could really kind of start taking a turn for the worse. It'd be lovely if they could get a win, but I'll be okay with the draw if they could somehow snag one tomorrow.
It just really feels like, and again, I'm a novice, but that St. Louis game just feels particularly galling in this run right here. I mean, San Diego has played awfully well as an expansion team. It was a long trip. It was coming out of the All-Star break, all of that. New York City Football Club, is what it is. But that St. Louis loss against a side that isn't very well thought of in MLS, and to not come back with any points out of that one really feels like the one that gets at you. Right now, NSC and Orlando City are tied for 3rd in the Eastern table in terms of points, with 47 each. FC Cincinnati with 52, Philadelphia Union with 51. So NSC still in decent shape, but like you said, really need a win tomorrow, obviously.
Yeah, would love a win, would accept a draw, because you do have Atlanta coming in next week, and you would feel a little more confident there. But that St. Louis match, again, yeah, it's one you're going to go back and look and say, oh my gosh, how in the world did we lose that? And it just kind of proves the point. Number one, it's flat out hard. It doesn't matter what the team is and what the records are and how bad MLS is compared to the rest of the world. It is still tough and a very difficult ask to go on the road in soccer and grab a win or even grab a point. Nashville is just not at the level just yet. They've given us all the glimpses, and they're a year ahead of schedule, but they're not elite yet. And that's a game that an elite team would have no problems going and winning on the road. They're trending in the right direction, but hopefully that's not one that comes back to bite them. Good news for them, too. They also made a couple of transactions. One is going to pay dividends immediately. They got a cash trade for Jonathan Perez, the 7th highest transfer fee to the tune of $1.8 million, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of money considering some of these other transfer fees we talk about. Neymar with millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. But 7th highest transfer fee. He's going to add a little depth. We've talked about that. They also made a move for an international roster spot from DC United, which is going to open up some flexibility in terms of some maneuvering that they can maybe do. The transfer window closed last night, actually. So basically, Nashville has kind of made all the moves it can make at this point for the rest of this season. And it's kind of up to the guys. We've talked about Boyd and him coming back and adding some depth. They're doing all they can to kind of make a real good push at this thing. Let's see if they can get to the finish line.
Did not have Alex Mule in the middle last week because of yellow card accumulation, but he's clear to play this weekend. I'm sure that'll help.
Should help. I mean, and remember, the other factor, too, is we talked about it last week. Orlando is a team. Nashville sent its decided B squad, maybe even a C-plus squad, down to Orlando early in the U.S. Open Cup. And lo and behold, all they did was go out and win the game on the road. They came back and won that match. So Orlando, even though they didn't necessarily field their A-plus team that day, they feel like they got a little bit of a bone to pick with Nashville. That, plus the fact that they're even on points, this is going to be a massive showdown. Coyotes and Lions going toe-to-toe tomorrow night at Geodis.
Again, NASCAR's final Cup Series stop of the regular season is this weekend at Daytona. Still 2 spots to be decided in the playoff field. I think the other 14 are all filled, so should be some high drama this weekend.
NASCAR always produces the drama, right? And I mean, it doesn't matter what the stakes are. It feels like we're destined. There's going to be some sort of little wrinkle, some sort of storyline, but it's always fascinating too. For such a long season, it's kind of cool whenever it comes down to the nitty gritty and guys are literally backed against the wall in terms of getting things situated just so, whether you're already in the field or whether you're out of the field. It makes for some compelling drama, and it certainly will make for some fireworks. Might even see a little of those fireworks spill over. Tempers have been known to flare in situations like this, so looking forward to a fun weekend as usual.
Should be. Finally, feels like the time is here, Wade. What do you think? Should we jump into these first college football predictions of 2020? Well, not of 2025, of the 2025 season.
I say we do it, partner.
Let's go. The floor is yours, Mr. Neely.
All right, we've got a couple of games lined up. Should be fun to kind of dip our toes into the sports betting waters. These odds are going to be coming from Circa Sportsbook. By the way, Circa Sportsbook, the new Circa Sportsbook at the Mint Gaming Hall, right up 65, sponsor of the show here. We'll be doing a show from there in 2 weeks' time, the night before the NFL season kicks off. So looking forward to bringing some more Main Street content to our audience from Circa Sportsbook. With all that out of the way, though, we're going to save the best for last. We got 4 different games here, and we go to kind of the mini slate. This is not a full-blown wonder slate, but a little mini slate to get you revved up. Our first action, Christopher Gabriel, cover your ears, but your Fresno State Bulldogs are a 13.5-point underdog when they go to Lawrence, Kansas tomorrow to take on the Jayhawks. The kickoff is set for 5:30. You can watch it on Fox. The question is, Mo, who do you like with the number sitting at 13.5?
You know, first weekend of the season, it feels like 13.5 is a lot. But, you know, I'm not sure Fresno can keep it much closer than that coming across, well, halfway across the country anyway. And this isn't a bad Kansas team, I don't think, or it wasn't last year. As we were talking to Jordan just now, there's so many of these teams that we really don't know a whole lot about. But I'm going to take Kansas to cover 2 touchdowns at home against the Bulldogs. Sorry, CG, nothing personal.
Nothing personal. Little White Sox payback for you there. I'm with you, though. I'm taking the Jayhawks in this game for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think Fresno State, they got a new head coach coming from North Dakota State who's going to be pretty sharp down the road. Not just yet in this first game. Also, Kansas, they're going to be jumping for joy. They're finally back at the stadium after playing last year at Arrowhead. Kind of give me those 2 factors alone, and you got to fly across country. Yeah, I like the Jayhawks to win. And even if they win by 14, we still cover. The half will make you laugh, but sometimes it'll make you smile. I will take the Jayhawks as well in this one.
All right.
Up
both
next,
on the Jayhawks.
Yeah, both taking the Jayhawks to cover the 13.5. Up next, Sam Houston State travels to the mighty town of Bowling Green, Kentucky, where the Hilltoppers are favored by 10. That game kicks off at 6, and you can see it on CBS Sports Network.
It pains me to ever pick the Hilltoppers in anything, but man, at home in their Conference USA opener, that's right. Sam Houston is the
Bearcats with a K.
Yeah, with a K. That's right. Again, it pains me, but give me Western with the 10.
I'm taking Western in the 10-2. This has a potential for a push, obviously, a strong potential for a push. But I don't know. The only reason I love taking Western here, I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but the reason I love taking them, we've talked about it with Chip, we've talked about it with a number of different guests, Sam Dowdy and others. Western Kentucky has got continuity going for themselves. And even though they're breaking in a brand new quarterback, he's got a good pedigree. And it doesn't matter, Mo. It feels like that coaching staff could bring me or you up there to Bowling Green, and they could turn us into a 2,500-yard or more passer each and every single season. So with that being said,
my arm's gone.
Don't say, well, that dink and dunk, my friend, will get you a long way. That being said, this could be a push, but I'm taking the Toppers to win. I think they use that continuity factor and break in their new quarterback nicely. I think they cover the 10.
They seem to have a thing about quarterbacks, man. The run of successful guys that they have had pulling the trigger in that attack has been impressive. And again, it pains me to compliment anybody in Bowling Green. But what they've done over the last few years, particularly at that position, with, I don't want to say guys off the street, but it's been even, they've had a lot of different guys, and they've all been successful. So maybe it is the offense.
Yeah, when they can turn Caden Veltkamp from basically a tight end into a guy that throws for, I mean, I know MTSU wasn't great last year, but when you throw for like 7 touchdowns, I think he's still throwing for TDs. It'd be fun to watch him down at Florida Atlantic this year. But yeah, they can turn anybody into a hot shot QB. So we're both on the toppers there. Night game tomorrow night out in Honolulu, but you don't have to stay up that late to watch it. A nice and tidy 6:30 kickoff on CBS or Paramount Plus as Stanford makes the sort of short trip, short for most of us at least, trip out to the Big Island there. Hawaii's favored by 2.5 in this game, Mo.
Short trip when you compare it to some of their conference games, as the Atlantic Coast Conference member, Stanford goes across the sea. But that's still, I don't know how good Hawaii is, obviously, but Stanford has not been very good of late. Under a new coach, making a long trip. Give me the Rainbow Warriors at home to cover by a field goal.
This is either good or bad because we're in lockstep here to start the season, at least through these first 3 picks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hawaii may not be great, but Stanford, Frank Reich and Andrew Luck calling the shots, they're going to slowly rebuild them. And Stanford was kind of scrappy in some games last year, but the fact that they were scrappy and then still, did not particularly close well with some of the talent they lost. I mean, we're going to see one of their star players in Aya Manor, who roasted Travis Hunter all over the field. They still couldn't drag themselves to wins in most of those games. I don't know if they're ready to rebuild all the way. I'm taking the Rainbow Warriors as well in a little 6:30 showdown tomorrow night. Nice and tidy, like I said.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. Finally, we go from one side of the world to the other. You got to go all the way across the pond. It is going to be a showdown for the ages in the Aer Lingus Kickoff Classic. They're playing at the Aviva Stadium tomorrow over in Dublin at 11 a.m. The 109th edition of Farmageddon kicks off. Number 22 ranked Iowa State, number 17 Kansas State. And it's Kansas State favored in this game. Who you like, Mo?
Kansas State is favored. I feel like Matt Campbell and the Cyclones are going to have something to prove here. I'm going to go ISU in this one.
We will be sitting in the same boat because I'm taking Iowa State to win this game outright on Saturday primetime. It'll be a fun showdown. And I love Kansas State, but I really like Iowa State. And I've already got a little coin in the pocketbook jingling around on Iowa State to win this game straight up. Maybe you could think about an alternate spread. Maybe you go Iowa State -3 themselves. But I think Matt Campbell, he's going to have them focused across the pond. I think it's going to be an electric game and hopefully the sign of a fantastic Big 12 season. But I'm taking Iowa State to win this game tomorrow morning.
I think, the Big 12 was out of control from start to finish last year. I mean, you saw who they sent to the playoffs and that kind of thing, who was in the championship game. So it was as unpredictable
almost
as anything
beat Texas.
You could see. Yeah. So, but I think they get the chaos off to a great start again tomorrow with this one. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. I kind of like the Cyclones not just to cover, but to win this thing straight up. So, but I hope it's a good ball game. The last couple of games in Ireland have been quite entertaining.
Unless you're Florida State.
Yeah, there you go. That's going to do it for our college football picks for week 0. We will have the entire Wonder Slate next week, so this will get you ready for that. That's going to do it for the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and join Wade and I Monday at 2:00. In the meantime, go see some high school football tonight. Those guys be happy to see you. Have a great weekend.